Welcome to everybody to another edition of Liam's Hockey. We're on the road here. We're on the road today. Not very far, actually. I'm going to try and lift this up just a little bit. Show you that building in behind. It's not quite like it looked 52 years ago when I signed up for hockey here. I'm outside the Osgoode Arena. And I was thinking, it's Gordie Howe's birthday today. And he played in the NHL till he was 52 years of age. I don't have a Detroit sweater, but I figured the best I could come up with was Team Canada 72, which, even though Gordie didn't play on the team, but I had to do something with Canada on it, given that Gordie was born in Floral, Saskatchewan. I thought, geez, he was 52 when he retired from the NHL as a grandfather in 1980. 52. I signed up for minor hockey 52 years ago, right here. This building. No artificial ice then. We had to start in Kentville. But anyway, Gordie was still very much involved in pro hockey, certainly the National Hockey League, for a couple more years at that time. So I just thought for a little bit of something different, we'd bring it to the Osgoode Arena. It's actually called the Stuart Holmes Arena now. I should point that out. Very important. Stuart Holmes and the Holmes family are absolutely legends in this area, in the 826, deservedly so. The boys, their late sister Wendy, God love her, we lost her a little while ago, and of course the parents and the patriarch, Stuart himself. So a little bit of Gordie Howe chatter today on his birthday. It's going to be a little bit. I thought, well, what are 9 facts? Liam Maguire's 9 facts. I gave you one of the best yesterday, and I'm going to obviously include it today. And that's the top 5 in scoring for 20 consecutive years. I'll get there. But he scored his first goal in the NHL on October 16th, 1946. You can look that up. He got it against the Toronto Maple Leafs in the second period, and goaltender Turk Broda. And the goal was assisted by Sid Abel, who actually became, as you guys probably all well know, a longtime centerman for Gordie Howe, and a left winger by the name of Adam Brown. Now, the interesting thing that the overwhelming majority of people don't know is that Gordie Howe played with Sid Abel's son, who played one game in the NHL for Detroit in 1966-67 with Gordie, not the same line, same team, and he played against Adam Brown's son, who was goaltender, the infamous or famous Andy Brown, who was the last goaltender to play without a mask in the National Hockey League. And then he jumped to the WHA in 1974, and I believe it was the 5th game he ever played. Gordie Howe scored on him after his dad assisted his first goal ever in October of 1946. And what would a Gordie Howe recollection be? Here's fact number 2 on fighting. I mean, the Gordie Howe hat trick is named after him, and I just want to point out something very quickly here that's so erroneously digested and been regurgitated for decades, because people don't know. Unless you've read or studied the history, you wouldn't be familiar with it like I am. So, fact is that Gordie had 2 official Gordie Howe hat tricks, and a third where he got a major against the Oakland Seals. For fighting a guy. Well, Gordie got the only major. Whether it was high sticking, there's controversy whether it was high sticking or fighting. Regardless, called 2, called 3 official Gordie Howe hat tricks. But here's the thing. Back in the day, especially when he started, and right through the first 10 or 15 or 18 years that he played, when there was a bench brawl, and he was involved in many, and the players came off the bench and fought, they were not given major penalties. The referees in those days would get the first combatants and maybe the seconds, and they wouldn't get anybody else. So Gordie, in my estimation as a hockey historian, I think probably had full-on upwards of 15 to 20, maybe more, Gordie Howe hat tricks, such as they are. That said, he had his first official fight in the NHL 3 days after his first game, in game number 2 against the Leafs. It was a home and home. 3 days later, October 19th, 1946. He got roughing minors in that first game with Bill Zanicki. Well, he dropped the gloves with him at the end of the second period on October 19th, 1946. He had an assist that night as well, so he missed it. If he had scored, he would have had his first official Gordie Howe hat trick. But he didn't score. But he got an assist and he got his first fight. Gordie Howe won his first Hart Trophy in 1951-52. He won his last Hart Trophy in 1962-63. That's a span of 12 seasons. Nobody went that length of time. Mind you, he won 6 in total, right, in those 12 years. Unbelievable. Now, I know what you're saying. Well, Wayne Gretzky won 9 and 10. Yeah, he did. But he didn't go 12 years between wins. So we're going to give Gordie the W on that one, even though Wayne got 3 more Harts. So there you have it. Back to fighting. And this one needs to be talked about, because if you put a list of the most significant fights in NHL history, your Larry Robinson and Dave Schultz and these types of things, Bob Probert and that last fight he had with Marty McSorley, and go back in time, you've got a couple others, but the Gordie Howe-Lou Fontinato fight, February 1st, 1959, is regarded historically as one of the most significant fights in history. It was culmination towards the end of Gordie's 13th year in the league. Lou had been in the league for a while. He was the first 200 penalty minute man in NHL history. Tough guy. Very tough. Dirty as well, but very, very tough. Only passed away a short while ago. And this had been brewing. And here's what happened. So Eddie Shack was getting into it with Red Kelly. Red Kelly only dropped the gloves like twice his entire career. So Gordie Howe came in to back up Red Kelly, and as he was getting into it with Shack, he realized that Fontinato was on the ice. So he turned at the last second, just as Fontinato was throwing a right hand from the floor, and Gordie ducked it, and then came back, and it went boom, 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 and they got it going, and he was just chopping Louis down. He took some shots too, though. Louis landed some good shots, gave Howe a shiner, but Gordie Howe inflicted a lot of damage on Lou. And the Rangers, they lost the majority of the remainder of their games. They had 3 or 4 wins, maybe 5, but they lost like 8 or 10, 11 games left in that season. And their coach, Phil Watson, thinks that loss may have contributed to the morale on the team and maybe one of the reasons they missed the playoffs. Up for debate, but you could make the case. Certainly an infamous fight, or famous, depending on how you look at it. February 1st, 59. I think it's noteworthy for Gordie Howe. You get into the 60s, then you're in the stat, as I said yesterday. Top 5 in scoring for 20 consecutive years. Just to break that down, he finished first 6 times. He finished second once. He finished third 5 times. He finished fourth 3 times. And he finished fifth 5 times in 20 consecutive seasons. Never be matched, never done before, never be done since. Absolutely one of the most remarkable statistics in sports. You get into the 70s, and he retired from the NHL the first time in 1971, took a year off, came back, joined the Houston Aeros with his son, so very noteworthy. But the moments that I want to go to are the when he came back to the NHL, he played with Mark and Marty as well in that 79-80 season. And one game and one game only, they all started on the forward line. March 9th, 1980 against the Boston Bruins. Ended up in a 1-1 tie. They didn't get a point or score, but they started the game together. The coach for Hartford that time was Don Blackburn. He played against Gordie. They had a great relationship, and they started that line. I think that's a very significant factoid. Also that season, Gordie Howe was part of the oldest line in NHL history. Gordie Howe, Bobby Hull, and Dave Keon, 51, 41, and 39 when they played together. With Bobby Hull turning, his birthday was in January, so he turned 41. Dave Keon's is March 22nd. He would have turned 40 just a few weeks after they did this. The oldest line in NHL history, kind of significant as well, I think. So there's another factoid for you. Gordie Howe scored his last regular season goal in April, I believe the 6th in 1980, in a victory over the Detroit Red Wings. And the goaltender was Rogie Vachon. You say, okay, that's kind of a neat factoid, his last goal, that's great. But, Bobby Hull scored his last goal ever in 79-80 as well, as a member of the Hartford Whalers. Not in the same game, he did it about 3 weeks earlier. And you know who against? Yep, goaltender Rogie Vachon. And you know what? The year before, Bobby Orr scored his final goal ever in the NHL on October 28th, 1978, I believe it was, Guess who against? Yeah, Rogie Vachon. All three of them scored their last regular season goals against Rogie Vachon. I think that's absolutely remarkable. And I guess the last one that I kind of like is Gordie Howe still has the all-time record for the most career games played, 1,767. And, Jagger took a pretty healthy run at that. So did Chris Chelios, a few other guys. And, it was second. And had there not been a lockout, probably would have beat it. Is Mark Messier is second, 1,756. Wind is pushing my phone. 1,756. He's second. How many games is that behind Gordie? Well, it's 11. What was Mark's sweater number in the NHL? 11. What was Mark's last game ever in the NHL? Today's date, Gordie's birthday, 2004. There was a rumor that went around for years, never able to substantiate it, that Gordie had a sweater stolen, his number 9 stolen on a road trip in Los Angeles. And for that one night, the only sweater available was number 11. I've never substantiated that, but I went with it for a while. I kind of don't think it's true. But if it was true, even for that one game, that Howe wore 11, in addition to his first number, which was 17, then, it'd be kind of neat that Messier finished 11 games back wearing number 11 and played his last game ever on Gordie's birthday. So there you go. Now, I finished today with two things. Number one, I think it's an absolute travesty that the NHL have not honored him yet. When Gordie passed away, and it'll be 4 years this June, they said they said they were going to do something to honor him special. They haven't. I have suggested that they rename the Hart Trophy. It's been met with some approval. It's been met with some disdain and disapproval and whatnot. People don't want to see the tradition screwed with, I guess, which is kind of ironic because, Gordie Howe's name is no longer on the Stanley Cup. Neither is Rocket Richard's. I mean, what's more traditional than the Stanley Cup and names on the cup? And they're not there anymore. And you're worried about a trophy where there's no Hart member alive still, it hasn't been for decades, where the trophy's already been renamed once, and you can't concede that you could take the existing trophy and put it in the Hall of Fame where Gordie's name and Rocket's name and many others resides on those bands from the Stanley Cup. It's the exact same thing. He won the Hart 6 times. I know Wayne won it more. But it's just like giving Ted Lindsay the Rocket Richard, the MVP of the league as voted by the players. You would not have picked him normally, but they're honoring him for his fight for the players' union. And you could do this. You could honor Gordie Howe. You could honor Gordie Howe by renaming the Hart Trophy the Gordie Howe Memorial MVP Trophy and put the second Hart, which is what this one is. If you want to see Rocket Richard's name on the Hart Trophy, you can't. You have to go to the Hall of Fame. It's on the original Hart Trophy. I know nobody knows this, but anyways, just a little bone of contention for me. And just very quickly, I mentioned Gordie started with number 17. He switched to number 9 the following season on November 1st. In a game against the Rangers when it became available for the first time. Roy Conacher wore it that first year, and he got into a big dispute with Detroit. They sold him to Chicago for cash, and the number opened up. As probably most of you know, the single-digit sweater numbers in those days meant you got a lower berth on the train. The lower berths were bigger. Gordie was 6 foot 205. That's a big man in the late 1940s. So he got number 9. And the rest is history in respect to that number. And my very last one today. Gordie Howe and Wayne Gretzky are forever linked by one of the greatest anecdotes in the history of sports. Only one time, after Wayne started tucking his jersey, his sweater, into the back of his pants, a habit that started when he first played in 1967 because the sweater was too big, and Walter took it and put it in the pants, and it became so much a habit for him that when he had his hockey pants made later on, he had an area in the back of the pants made special where he could tuck it in. But he didn't have that in 1979. And when Wayne and Gordie played in the WHA All-Star team that took on Moscow Dynamo in a 3-game series, I believe it was in Northlands Coliseum in Edmonton in 1979. On January 2nd, that first game, as Wayne Gretzky stood up after warm-up and went out to take the ice and had his sweater tucked in, Gordie Howe grabbed it and said, let me fix that for you, kid. And he took the sweater and he pulled it back out, and he took a roll of hockey tape and he rolled it around. And what was Wayne going to do? It was his hero, his biggest hero. So he didn't do anything. They went out, and 30 seconds in, they scored. And it was Gordy and Mark Howe and Wayne. They got 7 points in the game. They won 4-2. They got 4 points in the second game. They won 4-2 or 4-3, and they won the final game as well. They swept them. The line got 11 points in the 3 games. And now you know the rest of the story, how Wayne and Gordy are intrinsically linked forever due to one of the greatest anecdotes of all time as far as I'm concerned. NHL, do the right thing. Honor this guy. Rename the Hart Trophy. Hope you enjoyed a little walk down memory lane here for me. The Osgood Arena. Rory played here too. I coached here, played here myself for years, and there you go. That's it, that's all. Well, oh, wait a second. Hold on a minute here now. Can't leave without having a shot of whiskey. Didn't think I was gonna do that, did you, folks? Let's just see here. This is a old flasky, as my buddy Mike Ross would say. Oh my goodness, it just happened to have a little. Here we go, right here. To Gordie Howe, Mr. Hockey. G'day.